Security Halt podcast is proudly sponsored by Titan SARMS. Head to the episode description and check out Titan SARMS today. Jeremiah Wilbur, welcome to Security Halt podcast, brother. How you doing?
Good, man. How you going, brother?
Doing good, dude. A lot of us have these amazing stories, but yours is incredible in so many different ways. The way you grew up, the path you took to becoming a Green Beret, and your mission today. Dude, you're part of Americana, the dying breed. You know, we don't have cowboys anymore around everywhere. But when you tiled into your page, you go check out what you're doing. There you are in full display, living the American life, being a true representation of our great American culture. And dude, you're uniquely 100% authentically you at every aspect, at every time. We cross paths early on in our in the pipeline, and you've been the same person through and through your entire time. But today, man, before we dive into everything you're doing today, I want to go through your entire journey, man. How did Jeremiah become Jeremiah?
Yeah. Well, man, I really appreciate those words. Definitely humbling for me. And it'll come from you. I know you too. So it's like, man, that's super cool. Yeah, man, I'm just blessed, to be honest. All those things you said, I'm just living, just had the ability, from my parents, and definitely blessed to grow up in an environment where we just lived as hard as we could and just always chased adventures and just like live very passionately, I think. Is when I kind of relate other people's childhoods. I don't think they had quite the same experiences just based off of, just how my parents raised us as kids. Yeah. So I was raised in Montana for about half my life. My dad was just like a blue collar guy, did a lot of cowboy work, worked at the talc mine, guided elk hunts, those kind of things for a
Yeah.
long time. He was also in the National Guard at the time, so he was in the Army before I was born. Got out, and my mom was she was doing a lot of like modeling. There's a lot of famous Western artists. One of the names is I can remember is Val Miller. So there's a lot of like postcards and stuff with Native ladies. A lot of those are my mother. So she did that, and then also kind of day work, cowboy work. And they did that till I was about 4 or 5, maybe a little older. And then my dad put himself through college. He wanted to be a flight nurse. He was, I think he was a tanker at first, and then became a medic. So once he became a medic, he kind of got like turned on to, like how, what he could do in the community. He always liked to serve people and wanted to do something. So I think that was his way of like, wow, this is a really cool job where I can still make money, support my family, but I can also give back to the community. So he put himself through college, and then we moved to Great Falls, and he was working in the ER for a few years there. And then we moved from there to Las Vegas, and my dad got a job on Flight for Life in Las Vegas at the time. So that whole time period of Montana was really cool because everyone I was around was like very gritty, like manly men, these like outdoor rugged kind of mountain men, or the same like outdoor rugged, cowboys. And at the same time, I was a pretty like mean spirited, like hateful little kid, man, because I'm a half-breed Indian. My mother's Apache. We lived in Montana. Growing up in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of people don't realize like how much the racism was there. And it was both sides, right? It was like I wasn't
Yeah.
Indian enough for the Indians. I wasn't white enough for the white kids.
Yep.
So, my earliest memories as a kid is like I was always fighting, just kind of this angry little kid. And even when I go back home, call it my hometown in Ennis, Montana, I'll go there and visit. And people who knew me from a long time, they just knew, they're like, dude, that kid was wild. And they're like, of course you're the Green Beret. They just remember from being this like angry kid that would fight anybody and I'd get beat up so much, but I just didn't care. So moving to Vegas was like a really cool experience for me because I went to high school in Las Vegas. I tell a lot of people there was so many similarities between the neighborhood we lived in, which wasn't, it's really ghetto now. It wasn't that ghetto when we first moved there, East Las Vegas. But there was a lot of like, what I don't see nowadays, we call them OGs. So like those OGs back in the day was like, they would see potential in some of the young guys and would like try to keep you away from trouble or try to steer you away from doing those things. And they even had a code, even though they might be up to criminal things or might have a shady past. It was like they respected women. They just had these like kind of similar codes. It was more of a street code that was very similar to like growing up, like the cowboy code, how they honor women and
Yeah.
respected, like a handshake meant something. And, so it was weird similarities, but it really set me up for the Army and what I would deal with later on in my life through the rest of my career because I was such an angry kid, but I didn't have any street smarts, you know, like in Montana, you can get away with just, you know, oh, you ran your mouth, like I'll fight anybody, you know, what do you, they beat me up, okay. You know, in the inner city where I was in Las Vegas, it was like kids were getting shot, kids were getting stabbed. You
Yeah.
know, it was pretty crazy. So it really helped me understand that as I progressed into a young man, eventually, you know, joining the army, you know, and just, you know, everyone who's been stationed in the army knows they're always not in the best of places, and it's pretty easy to find yourself in the
Yeah.
hood real quick. So I think that like if I wouldn't have that experience, if I'd just been this stupid country kid from Montana, I thought he was tough, you know, probably could have ended wrong in some situations. But
Yeah, dude.
that was
Street smarts. That shit's important. There's a lot of people discount it, and when you get in the military, you brush up against the wrong NCO that doesn't come from that walk of life, and they don't value that, and they think that you're some wannabe tough dude, and they don't mentor you, they don't guide you, they just see you as a
mhm,
problem. But some of the best Green Berets, some of the best soldiers I ever met had a lot of fucking street smart. They came from
yeah,
those
same,
grimy fucking backgrounds, and yeah, gold teeth and lots of slang, but the
yeah,
best fucking dudes.
yeah, yeah. You know, I think if you can, you know, tap into that warrior spirit that's the reason why they have that, you know, they have that, you know, nowadays the kids go, they got that dog in them, right? Like if you can
Yeah,
get them to bring it out in that positive way, whether that's through athletics, through martial arts, through the military or whatever, I think that, you know, it's really cool when leaders can kind of tap into that. And you know, just not going crazy off subject, that was my favorite thing about the army, man. Regardless where I served, you know, conventional army or special forces, it was like all walks of life, every single color, race, creed, religion, everything you can think of, just like, you know, best friends, brothers with each other. Like, you know, some kid from Alabama is roommates with this kid from Brooklyn and they're best friends. And it's like, you know, they both of them never interacted with another race like that before,
yeah.
this white kid and this black kid or whatever. And they, you know, now they bond over like Wu-Tang Clan and they go fishing because the black kid likes to fish now or whatever, you know. And it's these really cool relationships that I think that a lot of veterans take for granted, you know, while we are in. I would say soldiers or sailors, Marines, we take that for granted while we're in. And then when you get out, when you're a veteran, it's like it's weird kind of navigating society that doesn't always have that same point of view, that does kind of have this weird judging the book by its cover, if you will, or people from a certain place. And we just see it. So it's just such an integral part of who we are. Like you don't care. You're like, oh, dude made it, made all the standards. He's squared away. He's a good dude. Like, okay, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that is so fucking true, man. It's sad that we get more. We're in a society right now where it's like DEI pushing for like representation everywhere, but I'm like, dude, we really have it in the military. I felt it the
Absolutely.
same way, man. Felt it the same way, especially like as a young guy in the 80s, you really saw that everybody was the same. One of the best friendships. Like, look, special forces is awesome. I'll do anything for previous teammates, but my old fucking paratrooper company, my infantry dogs, like, dude, such a wide range of individuals, and the love is still there. Like it could be, and it has been decades, and you connect over the phone. And it's just like you were talking the other day. Like, and it's everybody came from such wild backgrounds, dude. Country kids that you could hardly understand, and inner city kids.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I mean, so kind of continue on. Joined the army right out of high school. Joined the army, and then I was actually an MP when I first came in. I was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas. Got there January 3rd or something like that, 2000. Fort Hood, Texas.
Damn.
It was an open post at the time, and I was very, you know, like people are like, why MP? I didn't get in a ton of trouble as a kid in high school. I got into some stuff. I ran with the wrong crowd for a little bit. My brothers and sister and I, we competed heavily in martial arts, and I was ranked like top 10 in the world for
No
a
shit.
long time. I mean, I competed at a very, very high level, and that really helped me with my attitude adjustment and kind of understanding. I'm sparring every day. I'm physically fighting almost, you know, 4 or 5 nights a week. It's like I don't need to be, you know, fighting in the
Yeah.
streets and acting silly or anything. But I was kind of saying all that just because leading into, you know, being at Fort Hood, martial arts kind of have really helped me out. But if I didn't have that, I think I'd have gotten more in trouble. I got into some trouble. This cop was like, "What do you, you know, basically like, what are you doing?" Like, kind of was like to all of us. And this is in East Las Vegas in the 90s. A lot of people, everybody, I always see these videos on TV, people complain about the cops. Back then they had gang units. They didn't have to have any reason to pull you over or do anything to you. They just rolled up on you, handcuff everybody, slam you on the car, take pictures of you, affiliate you with whatever they want to in their book, whatever street you live on, whoever you got in a fight with, or whatever your last name was. You were basically gang affiliated for that area that you lived in. And for us, we were affiliated with 28th Street. It just so happened we would get into fights with like White Fence and their rival gangs, and we played football with guys and wrestled with guys, but we weren't in the gang. One of the police officers was from that neighborhood, and he would come around and basically just like, hey, Denny, what's up, man? What you got going on, Jeremiah? Same thing. It was basically like he would hear our plans out, and there was a couple of us on our street had good plans, and he would always like try to talk guys through those plans, whether it was through college, I had a guy buddy who played football at UNLV, things like that. So anyway, he really kind of got a hold of me, and I was like, man, maybe this is my way to pay it forward to be an MP. I was thinking I was gonna be like law enforcement, I was gonna be like a cop or something. Longest story ever to tell you that being an MP is not being a cop whatsoever. If anybody thinks
No,
that,
I know that was also my first MOS.
yeah, yeah. So so like I get to Fort Hood as the MP. I loved going to the field and training and doing everything we did, and I absolutely hated being on the road. I had really good leadership who kind of took me under their wing and saw that like, okay, this kid can run, he can shoot, he can do all these things well, which really pushed me to just do extra things, whether it was like, go get my EIB with the infantry guys, or go do this, or go do the baton death march, or compete in this competition. Like I was always pushed to that. Um, in hindsight, I don't know if it's because it made them look good as well, but at the same time, I'm very grateful for it, because it was like
Yeah.
I was always just kind of like voluntold, like, hey, Wilbur, there's a race, in a month. You're gonna do it. And I'm like, yeah, Roger that. But I love the army so much, man. Like when I was in basic training, like low crawling in the mud and like camo on my face or anything like that. I mean, that was my entire childhood. Like all I did was play outside. Like I thought I was either a mountain man or a soldier or like some Mac B SOG dude or something, man. Like that's all I ever did. And I had this crazy imagination. So for me growing up, wanting to be that my whole life, it was like just so cool to really be in a uniform and training and playing. And this is before, 9/11. So it was like all just war games. It was like that's all you could do to be a good soldier was like compete in events, do everything that's above and beyond extra. And that was it, just day-to-day life. And then I tried out to do SRT, which is like the SWAT team on Fort Hood. It was really cool experience, man. I definitely am eye-opening to law enforcement. We did a lot of high-risk warrants. We did a lot of really gangster shit, man. Um, Especially with Fort Hood being an open post. And then September 11th happened, shut everything down, totally changed that side of it. From there, I went on up to kind of bounced around doing whether they call the acronym like TACOM or PACOM, doing PSD for different dignitaries and generals out of FORCECOM and SOCOM, just anybody who needed. There's this big pot of like PSD, and we help facilitate that. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I knew like at this point I deployed out of Fort Hood in October of 2001, right after September 11th happened,
Damn.
and just doing like some counterterrorism measures, force pro stuff for Operation Bright Star that was going on in Egypt. So we did get to do some real world things, some kind of cool stuff. But I was by no means, watching all these guys go to war now, from Afghanistan, and then going into 2003, you're seeing all these guys going into Iraq. So I was like, man, I gotta get out of this job, like I'm never gonna deploy to combat in this job. So I reenlisted to go back to Fort Hood because I knew if I went back to Fort Hood, it was kind of familiar, but I knew I would deploy for sure. The MP companies out of there were nonstop rotating to Afghanistan and Iraq.
Mhm.
So I went there, took a squad to Iraq, '05 to '06. Had a really cool deployment, learned a lot about leadership, learned a lot about myself. Not a crazy tough deployment, but I would say that it was very hard compared to like some of my SF deployments, but it was a year, and I think, the
A year
simplicity of
long.
it made it a year, and it's hard to keep your boys, from being complacent when you're doing something over and over and nothing happens, and then all of a sudden something happens, and just the nonstop, like those kind of leadership, ups and downs and ebbs and flows of being there for a year and try to stay motivated. And even when you're having a bad day or it's not going right for you, it's like, you're the dad to, these like 15 other people. So that, I think that was what made, help make me start to really understand leadership. I'm not saying I was a good leader to those guys by any means. I mean, I still talk to them, to this day. There's a lot of them that are still my buddies and really amazing folks. But we lost some people. We lost a couple of people in our company. One of our another squad in our platoon got hit really bad. So it was a pretty tough deployment. It was my first time. I was 25 years old, and I have like 18-year-old kids that I have to like try to motivate them to get in the gun to ride into the exact same mission their roommate just got his head blown off doing, that same day or the day before,
Yeah.
or whatever. And or rolling up and seeing guys, 82nd kids get all blown up or whatever. And that to me, I think was really hard. And I it weighed heavy on me in a way where, in a good way, because my next job from there, and I wanted to do it, I wanted to be a drill sergeant. My drill sergeant was one of the most impactful men that I've ever been around in my life. Yes, my father was amazing. I was very blessed to be around. You're brown, you get it, like everyone's an uncle. I was everybody has tios and aunties and uncles and tias, right? I had that extended family, and I did grow up with a lot of really cool male influences from my karate coach to my father. But it was just the first mentor in the military that gave me like, what is a soldier, and
Yeah.
I really wanted to like pay that forward again, kind of that other feeling of like,
Yeah.
this made me. How can I help make
It's
somebody
a,
else?
yeah. It's one of the most important jobs that we don't give enough recognition for and give enough like respect, especially when guys in SF or in combat units get tapped to become drill sergeants. It's always met with a negative connotation. It's always met with that dread of, because the hours are insane, the demand is insane, and you have arguably one of the most important jobs because that is the first impression of a young man coming into combat arms. And I
Absolutely.
had the same thing. I still remember those drill sergeants. Like I remember the ones in basic training when I was a young kid becoming an MP. But when I reclassed over to infantry, same thing. It was same professionalism, a little bit different because I'm older now, but still the same professionalism. And man, like take us through that because, dude, like that is a hard fucking job.
Yeah. It was my favorite time in the army. Two
Really?
years. Yeah. And this is what. So about halfway through that deployment to Iraq, I knew I wanted to be a drill sergeant. I was kind of looking at what was going to be next for me for my career. And when I was a squad leader, I started, I kind of did half the years at E5 and half the years at E6. So I had a really good NCOER. Like I was kind of ahead of the power curve when it was coming. So if I was to go to drill sergeant school and be a drill sergeant, as far as just looking at like, remember those old days when you get counseled, when your NCOs counsel you, they were supposed to show you the career maps. I think I've only seen it like once in SF, but on the
Yeah,
regular
yeah,
army, they're usually pretty good about the shitty career maps of schools. So
yeah.
you're like, oh, I don't know. You
So
haven't been to
true,
jump
dude.
master school? You're like, bro, what? You're like,
Are you stacked like Jump Master? Nope.
yeah,
There you go.
exactly. Like, what the fuck? Okay, so we'll get. I'm sure we'll get to some of that here later on. But anyway, I looked at that and that was one of my options. So it laid out well. I submitted a packet. Ended up being DA select for that, and all those things that happened in the deployment, I really took that into consideration. Being a drill sergeant, so a couple of things that happened to me that were, I think, were pretty significant events during either training events. The first one was at drill sergeant school. So when you go to drill sergeant school, you basically go through BCT, the first 9 weeks of basic training all over again, red phase, white phase, and gold phase, and each one of those phases is the same thing. Like you don't call cadence in red phase and you're getting yelled at and everything's all the drill sergeants. What most people don't know is the regulation behind the scenes of that the drill sergeants are learning. So during red phase, every single drill sergeant on duty, and there is no CQ on, there's only CQ off, has to be there 30 minutes prior to lights on and 30 minutes prior to lights out for those entire 4 week period. So at drill sergeant school, all the drill sergeant leaders are there treating you that way. and you march around to class and the chow and stuff. But then what you do is when you go to class, you're in a small group, just like you are in, you know, whatever they call nowadays, PLDC, ANOC, BNOC, warrior leaders course or whatever. Those small leaders groups. So there's probably 7 to 8 people in your squad, and you basically learn how do you teach civilians to be soldiers? So you're going over every single regulation, right? Like you have to teach these kids how to like brush their teeth, how to, you know, everything you can think of, you know, to how you put your uniform on and why it's this way and what's the meaning of this flag here. And so you're learning all these things in class. And then you go through the progression of basic training. A lot of it's trying to make you a better instructor. So when you're going through BRM and stuff, you do shoot it like a soldier, but you also take turns leading it as you are going to with the privates and being a drill sergeant. So that's kind of in a nutshell what drill sergeant school is like. And then after red phase, you get, I think you get like Saturdays and Sundays off, and it's kind of a big boyish, more of an NCO school at that point. At drill sergeant school, they had a guest speaker, and this was I was a drill sergeant from September '07 to September '09. So this is before social media. I mean, I think, you know, even before the iPhone. And he said, he gets up on stage, and I can't remember what his rank was, if he was a sergeant major or what he was, but I just remember what he was talking about. And he said that, you know, none of you are rock stars, none of you are athletes, none of you are going to be able to influence millions of people, thousands of people, you know, hundreds of thousands of people. And he said, this is your one chance in your lifetime to influence hundreds of people, of Americans. And, you know, the 2 years you're going to spend being a drill sergeant, you're going to be the first impression and the last impressions of a soldier when they leave here and go to their unit, and what they're going to represent going forward to their unit based off of what you presented them. And he didn't talk about combat or anything like that. I don't even know if he had combat experience. You know, this is very early in,
Yeah.
2007. I mean, we're still talking a lot of senior NCOs. You know, if you're sergeant major at a CIB in '07, I was like, oh, you sure you got one, bud? Um, you know what I mean? You're like, okay, sorry. '03, '05, you're like, okay, sorry, cool. But anyway, so I really took that into focus, and then also added that like combat application of it, because the other thing I would see, and everyone knows just how small the Army is, and you know, you went through being an MP at first, it's very small. So like these
Yeah.
kids, when I'm done being a drill sergeant, they could be, you know, one of my team leaders, one of my drivers. They're gonna go to my friends, all the units I've ever served in. They're gonna go serve with these people, and they're gonna go to combat. So what I wanted to do was try to make them, you know, give them everything I could, give them 100% of what I could to make them prepared to be warriors, to be able to survive, to be an asset to their team when they arrive at their new unit. And what was really cool is I had some of the coolest teammates, you know, other drill sergeants with me, that everyone is fresh from deployments, from combat deployments. Every single one of us lost friends and soldiers and was directly affected by combat. I think that sentiment weighed heavy. That kind of you know how I am, my attitude and kind of my how I act. I think really like kind of rubbed off on a lot of the guys, and it was really cool. We had a really cool group of drill sergeants. So I really enjoyed that time. It's really cool now on social media. You know, privates hit me up or see me, and you know, see what rank they are. Some are still in the Army or what they're doing. And but yeah, it was my favorite time in the Army.
Dude, I'm glad you got that perspective, man. There's so many guys that, maybe they have a rough time and they poison that career field to everybody else. They take their lived experience, and without thinking to themselves, well, was I negative? Was I just not a good? Did I not put my best foot forward? Is it worth me complaining ad nauseum to everybody I meet about this experience? Maybe I should just reflect, like, was it always that bad? What good came of it? But I'm glad that there are more Green Berets that have taken on that challenge. I know within our group, our peer group of guys that got in there's been a few that went, and by and large, those guys always talked about the positive impact they had on the next generation, especially going back there as a Green Beret, having that ability to be like, hey, you can do this too. You can have that impact. And, when you went back to the force, were you energized, or did you need some time to like take a knee before you started running again and getting back into it?
I was kind of lost, to be honest. When I was a drill sergeant, it went by so fast and it was just rocking and rolling. Something really clicked for me about when I was talking about leadership that I had developed
Mhm.
as a squad leader and then in Afghanistan. And this would play into fruition through the rest of my career. But I noticed something, and that, that statement everybody says, like, nobody cares what you've done in the past. It's about what you're doing right now. And sometimes it takes so long for people to see that, like years and years for people to see this type of that and their leadership, right? Like, and basically what that means is like, yeah, you could have been the best squad leader ever, but if you're a shitty first sergeant right now, you're just a shitty first sergeant. No one cares. So we know that saying, and we've kind of seen that, and guys would just go out for reputation, like, well, he used to be this or whatever. Well, when I was a drill sergeant, you see that because every single cycle, you rinse and repeat the exact same thing you just did. So if me and you are, let's say we're at the obstacle course, and me and you get all camoed up, and it's pouring rain, it's cold as shit at Fort Leonard Wood, but we're low crawling in the mud and just having a blast. Like, let's go, private. Like being motivated and leading those soldiers, right? Versus the guy who's standing in a Gore-Tex jacket with his drill sergeant hat on, all bundled up, just standing there. He's just yelling, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Well, what do you think those privates see? No,
Mhm.
maybe this guy, maybe it's his last cycle. You know what I mean? They don't know, but he can't go off of what he did in the past in the other cycles because those privates aren't here anymore. They've never seen you. Now all they know is they see this guy wearing a jacket they've never seen before, yelling at him while all the other drill sergeants are rolling in the mud and doing everything else. So what they're going to do is that's kind of their first impression as soldiers. Our first impressions are those shitty drill sergeants, those early AIT instructors that didn't show up like the rest of them did and didn't do all the other things. And that also helps kind of mold who you are as a leader. But unfortunately, I think nowadays with society and just kind of how weak-minded we all are, and the children especially,
Yeah.
it sends them in a downward spiral of negativity versus using that negative fuel. I feel like I'm 40 or 45, and I feel like a lot of people in my generation, we use negative fuel in a way different way. And now it's like anything negative, it's like, oh my God, like, they kind of melt.
That is the perfect description. Oh god, no.
So I think that like negative impact in leadership, not to sidebar there, but is a downfall on a lot of what's going on in our military, because you see more negative people's attitudes towards things than positive. And what I mean by that is, the Marine Corps, I think, does it right when the way they pick instructors is they pick the top guys to go be instructors at things. The Army, even in special operations, we pick who's available and who we don't want to lose or who will make us look good. It's not the right fit always, and so, and that being said, what ends up happening is you get guys that are forced to go do jobs they don't want to do. I've been there multiple times, but at the end of the day, it's like when you're in the Army and you're remember those old I just remember those old commercial or those old cartoons of Donald Duck. He'd get like stamped like U.S. government on his ass, and it's like you
Yeah.
belong to Uncle Sam, and it's like you you bitch about it internally for a little bit. You have your little homosexual meltdown, drink some beers, whatever you got to do, and then you just go execute the job at to the highest standard you possibly can, because your name tag is still on your right hand side. You're still the person representing your name. You're still representing the U.S. Army. And oftentimes I've seen people really thrive and not even hold jobs, that they didn't want or were undeserving of for very long before they got promoted into the next thing or got a opportunity to be a team sergeant or got an opportunity to do this or whatever the case is. So I always just try to tell guys too, the military is one of those things where, you do got to kind of suck it up a little bit, and just execute. So I think that guys, like you were talking about Green Berets that we know and people that have been drill sergeants, even if they didn't want to do it at first, you understand that, and then you also understand the future of the next. This is the next generation of warriors that are going to be fighting our nation's wars. And if you can inspire them and give them just a little piece of your warrior energy and who you are as a man and as a soldier, they can take that forward. I think that that's huge because they probably never had examples unless they wrestled or did MMA or jiu-jitsu or something that, like, how many people play these really aggressive sports and have like these coaches that kind of hone in that, like, it's okay to be a warrior and to be violent in certain times and how to control that violence and when I need to, to suppress that violence. So I think it's really important for, these badass dudes, these infantry guys that are all tabbed out and have deployments, and these drill sergeants that the young Green Berets that, it's going to match their career. Yes, go teach that force, impart those warrior skills on the next generation.
Yeah, it's fucking so well said, brother. It's a shame that we haven't figured that out, how to properly get guys excited about mentorship and building the next great generation. As a Green Beret, as a war fighter, as a combat arms guy, like your ability to actually do the job, it's a small window. It's a
Mhm.
very small window of you being able to actually do that kick-ass fucking job that you want to do, whether it's a paratrooper, ranger, Green Beret, sapper, whatever it is, whatever kick-ass fucking job you're doing. There's a very small window of it. On the backside of doing the job, you have this long fucking window, an opportunity to mentor and coach and create the next generation of great leaders and great soldiers. You should be excited about that. And it's so hard. Like, some guys get it. Some guys are fucking just so good at that.
I
But
think
by and
it's just
large, so many of us don't realize how important that job is, or that ability to give back to the force until we're fucking way older.
absolutely. But what I think it is, and just, from, I did this before I was a team guy as well. And the regular army, I think you could probably catch those squad leaders where it kind of lines out career wise, where, like, there's this badass squad leader in the 101st, 82nd, whatever, that not
Mhm.
ready to be a platoon sergeant yet, maybe rank wise or maybe maturity level, but this is a guy, right? He's a motherfucker
Yeah.
that you can catch those guys and send them to be drill sergeants and could feed that force in that way. The team guys is hard because just like every team guy, and I was a team sergeant, how to manage, who's going where and who wants what. And no one wants to leave the team. No one doesn't want to not be a team guy. And it's we've done this thing in special forces, especially, and I don't know how it is in, with the SEALs or with MARSOC or anybody else, but it's like, if you're not on a team, there's something wrong. Why did you go unless you're an E8 or an E7 taking an E8 position, unless you go be, HAC first sergeant or the dive
Mhm.
first sergeant at the dive locker or down in Key West, or take the free fall. It's got to be something that's like way bigger that usually leads guys into the sergeant major jobs. Other than that, like, if anybody leaves the team for whatever reason, it's like that dude's a dirt. You're like, send all the dirt bags to Swick, and you're like, bro, it's not. And I think like we kind of created that in a way, and then at Swick too, they kind of had their hierarchies, right? Of like the dudes on
Yeah.
range 37, or like they're the elite dudes, right?
That's the
And
cream of the
then,
crop right
yeah,
there,
cream of
man.
the crop, right? Yeah, yeah. And the poor fucking dudes. Like, for me, like, if I was gonna go to Swick, I'd want to go teach SUT. Like, patrolling was my favorite thing to do. I feel like, I don't want to sound like Tim Kennedy. I feel like I am a subject matter expert in, in patrolling
I'm so glad
because,
it's become a meme. What's my job? Kind of hard to say.
kind of hard
That's
to
not that
say.
hard.
I say that with a respect to the tabs and the tabs I earn in the schools that I went to, and what they mean when you earn those tabs. So, being a sapper, being a ranger, being a Green Beret, just when I take all those patrolling schools, going to Arsley, going all these different patrolling things that I've done, whether it was foreign or, an American, just that training time alone, or just in the courses, I would say that on paper, people would expect a lot out of me, in patrolling. So if you see me in
Yeah.
my tabs and I show up and I don't know how to patrol, you'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, are you kidding me? Like, is that even, are those tabs real? Did you really get those? So, for me, if I was to go to SWIC, I would love to go to SUT and teach, patrolling and SUT and do that. But I know that a lot of times when the guys get there, there's this weird thing of like, oh, he's over at SUT, and you're like, what? We know guys. We're like, sounds like that dude's one of the most squared away team guys I've ever met. Like, good
Yeah.
glad he's at SUT.
This episode is brought to you by Titan SARMS. Head on over to titansarms.com and buy a stack today. Use my code CDenny10 to get your first stack. I recommend the Lean Stack too. Start living your best life. Titan SARMS. No junk, no bullshit, just results.
So whatever reason that's that we put this weird spin on
Yeah,
going to be an instructor, which I think is kind of a downside. In my opinion, it should be your best guys.
100%, dude. That's the absolute truth. I hope the culture changes, and I think it will, because obviously Afghanistan's gone. Now there's going to be a lot of return to understanding, like, hey, like peacetime, even though it's technically not peacetime, but still, like,
Right.
we will have the professional soldiers coming back in. That's something that I recognize. Like, even though I came from the 82nd, I wasn't a senior NCO. I was professional. I knew that I've achieved the dream, and now I had to earn it, continue earning it. But when you're a professional soldier, senior NCO, you bring a lot more to the table. You bring years of dedication, commitment, and soldier skills. Like, you've led at the squad leader, platoon sergeant level. That's valuable. That's added, and I hope more guys like that are willing to come over to SF, because it feeds the force, the professionalism that you're going to slaughter me. You're going to hate it, but it's true. We're missing some of those professional NCOs. We build
Absolutely.
great Green Berets. We do. But the professionalism we get when guys like my buddy Flo came over from 82nd, he's bringing in years of professional soldier skills that are going to be a benefit to the regiment. And I think it's needed. It helps offset and bring things like the basics. One of the biggest things we just had was a big display of a bunch of Green Berets that didn't know how to fucking march.
Yeah,
And
man.
yes, it's that important. Not really, but at the same time, drill and ceremony is part of being a fucking soldier. So maybe we shouldn't laugh. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should understand that, okay, maybe we do need to go back and have that spirit of the Corps where our guys can still do that. We still have change of command ceremonies. Those are important
Correct.
too. So
Correct.
it's looking at your career, looking at everything that you achieved. Any other NCO, any other soldier would have been like, hey man, like, I did some great shit. I'm gonna go ahead and continue this, take on a company, fucking ride this into the retirement town. You decided this, fuck that. I haven't earned enough. How was it when you made that decision to, like, okay, man, like, I'm still young enough. I've got plenty more time to serve, but you've mastered the skill set of one MOS, one job, going into special forces. That's a whole different thing as an older man. Like, how did you approach that decision?
Yeah. So, when I was while I was a drill sergeant, we were at Leonard Wood and the sappers were there. Sapper school was there. And it was only open to 11 Bravos and 12 Bravos at the time. Uh, and then when Ranger School did that, basically Ranger School, I want to say it was like '08, 2007 or 2008, they were like, okay, we're open to everybody. Sapper School did the same thing. They're like, all right, all MOSs can come to these courses because basically what they are, they're just, the premier leaders. Ranger School is their premier leadership course in the world. And then Sabre School, is basically it's a lot like Ranger School, but it's all engineer and demolition sabotage focused. How to be an asset to an infantry unit, as a sapper, basically. So because they're there, I saw them and I was like, man, I would go to the fight house and all the guys, the fight house was at the sapper school. And then all the sapper instructors with all the guys who rolled and wrestled and boxed with and everything. And they were like, dude, you should come to sapper school. And I'm like, I can't yet. And it opened up, and my drill sergeant told me if he's basically kind of like, or I'm assuming my first sergeant, he was like, yeah, you put a year on the trail and you work hard, like we'll try to reward you. It was my very first time any leadership has ever stuck to anything they've ever told me. Every race I've ever done, every marathon or anything I've ever done, it was always just like, oh, we'll send you to airborne school, we'll send you this or do whatever, and I never really got anything. It was just kind of like, and it wasn't that I did it for the reward. It was just, at this point, I've been in
Yeah.
the army for, 8 years, and it was like, bro, I've had smoke blown up my ass for 8 years, like, okay, Roger that,
Sure.
Sergeant Major. I know that, you know, and a lot of people don't know this about the military, and it takes them a while, but it's like you're in charge, you're in control of your own destiny. You know, like you are the only one that's in control of your career, regardless if you're private or you're a sergeant major. And there's things that you can do to help guide that, right? So basically, yeah, my sergeant, or excuse me, my first sergeant was like, yeah, man, do well, you know, what you got. So I ended up earning a spot to go to Sabre school. I was on the standby list. So all the guys told me, they're like, all you got to do, show up with your gear. If somebody fails one of the events or fails something on the test day, then you're up and you can get in. Uh, and then Sabre school is really cool. It's on a 1,000 point system. You have to have 700 points to graduate, and 50% goes on all your patrols out of 1,000 points possible. Points, there's everything from every time you do PT, you wear like a chem light around your neck. Like if they crack your chem light, you lose points. You're just constantly losing points, um, or earning points depending on what the evaluation is. Cyber school was really cool. It was the funnest thing I've ever done in the Army, the best course I've ever been to in my life. The first 2 weeks, I mean, it's from, you know, like 3:30 in the morning to like 1 o'clock at night. You're up studying and tying knots and doing stuff.
Damn. This episode is also brought to you by Precision Wellness Group. Getting your hormones optimized shouldn't be a difficult task, and Dr. Taylor Bosley has changed the game. Head on over to precisionwellnessgroup.com, enroll, and become a patient today.
And it's nonstop. They just crush you, crush you, crush you, PT wise, constant smoke session. And then just drinking from a fire hose. You know, you learn something and you test on it. That's points for that next day or whatever. And then the coolest thing that I really liked, that was Ranger School tries to do a little bit of it, but I think because Cyber School is smaller, they're only running 40 students. They can do a better job of it. But everything you do in general subjects, they call it. So all your demo ranges, all the mountaineering stuff, they incorporate that into all your missions. So when you go out on an op and you receive the mission, um, and they give you, you know, they drop the order on you, you might have like aircraft available with you're gonna push, you know, you're gonna push the boats out of the back and do a BLS and over the horizon deal. Like you make it plan out, it's really cool. So they give you all these assets. Or you're
Nice.
gonna do live demo. So like you're gonna hump in fake demo till you get here, and then you'll basically sign in on the range, you know, execute your task, come back. Like it was really cool the way they did it. It was every single skill that you learned, you might get that on a patrol, you know. So you might have to Jumar up a cliff, you know, like 40 dudes up this cliff with all their gear and all their shit after you learn how to do it the one time, you know, 2 weeks ago. So that was really cool, really great experience, and kind of my intro to a school like that, to really patrolling it. Up until this point, I've been MP, yeah, I've been SRT, but you know that was nothing. And I underestimated myself for so long, man. Like I'd always just been the PT stud, you know, shot well, done things. But if you know, if the E5 version of myself could have saw the E7 version of myself and be like, "There's no fucking way that's me, bro." So I went to Sabre school. Actually went. There was a first group guy there and a couple of dudes from Ranger Battalion, and that were in my class with me. And they were like, "Bro, what are you doing here?" They were like, "You're an MP." They're like, "Get the fuck out! Like, you need to go somewhere, bro. Like, get out of the army. Get out of the regular army." So I get right back. I get back from Sabre school. I had a short break between right after Sabre school. I went to SLC, and then I went home for Christmas Exodus, Christmas break, and then I came back and I went straight to Ranger School after that. So I actually re-enlisted indefinite to go to Ranger School. But that's the most hooah fucking army thing you ever heard, bro.
You're a glutton for punishment, man. Yes, I want to get my dick kicked in for the next 3 months.
Yeah, pretty
All
much.
right, here's a
Yeah,
pen.
yeah. That's exactly. They're like, okay, cool, bro. So I go to Ranger School, graduate Ranger School, and then basically the same experience. You know, I was around a bunch of dudes in my class that were just like, you know, what are you doing here? Didn't A lot of guys thought I was messing with them, and lying about being an MP. You know, thought I was just messing around. And but again, at the same time, I was also fresh off of Sapper School, and then going right into SLC, where I'm doing is writing op orders and planning and doing all the, you know, this just the operational strategic level tasks that you're learning as a senior NCO. So I looked at it as like I should be an asset to these other students here. You know, I should be able to help out. So great experience at Ranger School. It fucking sucks. It's cold. It's all the things everybody talks about. Everybody's a shitbag at Ranger School. I don't care what anybody says. You know, some of the funnest experiences of my life were definitely at Ranger School. Some of the funniest moments of my life were at Ranger School. And then when I got done with that, I was basically just like, man, there's no way I can go to the regular army. And I basically just started a process on trying to figure out how I was going to get somewhere. I thought I kind of had secured down a job, possibly in JSOC as a master breacher, some follow on training. Didn't work out like I thought it was going to work out. So then I went to selection and then got selected. And I had to get a waiver to go to selection because I was in E7 already. And then from then on, I was in the special operations pipeline, special forces
Yep.
pipeline for that. And then when I graduated, I went to Third Special Forces Group. I stayed there for about 5 years. I don't know how was it that I can't remember. I'm so bad now. I went to third group. I served on my first ODA was 3313. I did almost a full year in Afghanistan my very first trip. So I graduated like February, the day before Valentine's Day or something. And then like March 2nd, I was in Afghanistan and I was in 1st Battalion, 3rd Group, 3rd Special Forces Group. I got sent over there to meet the battalion that was already forward. But on the plane, the group sergeant major and everybody was over there, and he had talked to me a little bit and knew my background about PSD. I had some combat deployment, so they had fired a guy that did all their PSD, and I was at 18 Echo as well. So they fired a guy that was like the RTO and the PSD, and
Damn.
General Thomas. Everyone's going around, so they were literally like, he was like, okay, and he didn't tell me all this. I knew this later. So like getting off the tarmac, some guy's yelling my name. I'm like looking at this big dude, big sergeant major. And I'm like, hey, what's going on, sergeant major? The S3 sergeant major for the Cedar Soda. And he's like, hey man, you're not going to first battalion. You're working for me. He's like, yeah, sergeant major already shot me an email, said you're the new PSD guy. And I was like, oh my, you gotta be
Fuck.
fucking kidding me, dude. All I wanted to do was go to ODA, bro. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm old. I'm like 33. So I'm like, bro, fuck.
It's
So
funny that we say 33 is old.
I know,
Special
I know.
forces.
In the army, it's fucking old. If in the army, you're 33. You're a fucking basset hound.
Dude, especially like in the line company, you're
Yeah, that's what I mean.
dad, you're fucking dad to all these misfit kids. And it's like now on the outside, you're like 33 is not that
Yeah, it's
fucking
not old
old.
at all.
But
No.
these kids look up to you like you just know everything. It's
Yes.
like,
Yes. Yes. You are the same as their 55-year-old dad to them. If you're a 33-year-old squad leader, 33-year-old platoon sergeant, you are a 55-year-old dad, bro. A fucking social worker. Welcome to the 82nd. um,
fuck.
so one of the greatest experience I had as special forces and really set me up for, I think, would never have been able to be an asset to my team in the same way I was. Kind of rewind, I say the same thing. I almost got kicked out of the Q course for fighting. Got kicked out of the Bravo course. Apparently, aggression isn't wanted there. So, somebody once told me, always the key to being a good Green Beret is always understand your operational environment. Sometimes your operational environment is to roll your sleeves up to your elbows and look like a cool guy. Sometimes it's to wear a suit. Sometimes it's to wear a uniform and AR 670, -1 standards. And I took it as like a operational thing, not necessarily a mindset thing. And going and in the Bravo course, I just did that. I was like, dude, what do you want from me? I'm being as tough as I can. I'm going as hard as I can. And you're telling me that like this is too much. You know, you someone does something to me, I'm not allowed to. What grade are we in here? Like
Yeah.
what is going? That was how my mindset was working. So it was a good kind of reset. So that was a piece that kind of took me into this next chapter, going through that Echo course and getting to this place. It was phenomenal, man, because the only other guys that were there were all sergeant majors, and I was around a bunch of like old B-23 sergeant majors, ex sergeant majors, taking me to the range, 3 days a week. And then all the thing I did was go out with the boss. I went on
Yeah.
all the ops with the boss. I got to see every single special operations unit in Afghanistan. I went to every single briefing from ODA level to battalion level, from the AOB, you name it. I've seen everyone's brief, SEALs, MARSOC, CAG, Rangers. And that really opened my eyes to the Green Beret to understand of like, I heard a warrant officer in the Q course tell us one time that he said that what makes a real Green Beret is when you're a real senior guy, a real team guy, he said any Green Beret E7 can replace any S3 in the Army. And he's like, I'm
Yes.
not talking about the sergeant major. He's like, I'm talking about you can replace the S3 major in any battalion in the Army, whatever, I don't care if it's JSOC, I don't care if in the fucking 82nd. You can physically replace that major because that's how much knowledge you know about the battle space, about the military in general, and the capabilities and how to bring those all, how to kind of control those and bring those to the table. And that's the key thing about understanding how to operate, affect all three levels of the battlefield. And what I really saw during those briefings was I saw, whether it's a SEAL team, ODA, whatever, operating, affecting, the tactical level, the operational level, and the strategic level, all within, whether it's in a 6-month deployment or maybe one operation, whatever it is. So I was able to see that. And then at the same time, because of where I was located on Camp Alpha, I was able to take a lot of training tools and TTPs that were going on. And then how could I use those? How could I be an asset? ISR was this basic kind of like, it was a thing, but I was able, kind of the first guys to get my hands on a grip kit and really start messing with, the ATAC and how to utilize those things and how to bring ISR like directly, I can see it and talk to them on the ground to my GFC. So that point was really cool. I spent half the year doing that, and then the other half the year, my sergeant major made a deal with me. I said I want to stay here. I want to go to combat. So he sent me to an ODA in the third battalion. So I
No
finished out the
shit.
year in, yeah. So I finished out the year in third battalion, running commandos. It was one of the coolest missions we did, and I did that for the rest of the year. Got back and immediately started training and did Best Ranger in 2014.
Damn.
And that was the hardest competition, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life was the Best Ranger competition. Finished out, I did third group, I did some Iraq. We did an Iraq deployment, which was really cool. Another, kind of a really Green Beret mission there,
Yep.
by, with, and through. Some of it, we were kind of talking about, we were laughing about Tim Kennedy stuff. One of the things I want people to know and to understand is that a lot of these, and I'm not talking about awards or anything, I'm talking about a lot of people have this thing misconstrued, and especially when it comes to Green Berets. And I'm not talking about anybody else, but I will say this: the SEALs, MARSOC, if they wanted a piece of the pie in the war, they had to do what we did, which was by, with, and through. Have a partner force. Do the special forces mission,
Yep.
and everybody did it right. We are supposed to be the best at it at unconventional warfare. Oftentimes when you go out, if let's say you're running commandos and there's 12 gringos in the middle of 150 commandos and you're out on a clearing operation, how many times do we hit dry holes? How many times is there a gunfight that you don't have anything to do with because your commandos do it, or you're doing command and control, you're doing what you're supposed to do? So what's supposed to
Exactly.
happen when we go out on operations is the Bravo isn't supposed to have to maneuver with a 240 and take out something and do all this crazy stuff because he is orchestrating SE1, SE2 at the same time while this junior Bravo is manipulating the heavy weapons section and they're doing their thing. And all we're doing is executing the tasks that we trained on and the things that we did. And most Green Berets, when they do those successful missions, it's like, what happened? Nothing. It went exactly how we spent all this time preparing and planning and executing and doing. Now, are there times that doesn't happen and something goes wrong? It's war, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But I just, I think there's not enough talk about some of those success stories of some of the, those, everyone wants to hear these crazy war stories. And with the exaggeration of things that have happened with a lot of people, I think it downplays, the real war stories that are out there that need to be told and the cool gunfight stuff. But the reality is real Green Berets and that real mission and how successful we are. Oftentimes these guys are going out and executing these tasks with their partner force. Their partner force is doing it. If the Green Berets have to do everything for the partner force, then we are not doing our job of training that partner force to execute those tasks and to, basically fight for their own country.
Absolutely, man. And we have to kill this myth that every combat mission is a Hollywood story, a Hollywood movie. I've done so many missions that you walk away from that and you highlight the audacity of just the dumbest shit that's happened. You highlight the dry holes. You highlight the fact that like, fuck, dude, like this is so fucking cold and there was nobody on the objective. Fucking they got word something happened.
Mm-hmm,
It's not like the movies every single
mm-hmm,
fucking time. And when figures like Tim Kennedy get a national platform for years, decades now, and they've constantly created wild stories about guys that drove around throwing acid at little girls and how they murdered them. That's not reality.
No,
That's not true.
and the sad thing about that too, and kind of, carrying on to what I'm doing now, but like I think, and from what I saw when I was in the regular army, you didn't work and live with the indigenous people of the country you were deployed to. You had third world nationals that might have looked a lot like them, but they did not, they were not those people that were, I say that, I mean, cooking or in and out of the latrines, cleaning and those kind of things. But Green Berets, like we blood, sweat, and tears with like commandos and their guys they ran, their partner forces, and whatever their name was, whoever they are, right? Like whatever unit you were with.
Hmm.
There's so many good relationships with. I went to the Q course with guys that were commandos that I served with, and like, and when you look at that, it's just like how are we not like showcasing those like that, if it makes sense, of that like cultural thing that we're doing, how we're living with these people. Afghanistan, I think, was very, very heavy on any Green Beret, especially. And I'm not, knocking any other guys, but like, and the SEALs that ran commandos,
Yeah.
the same way. I mean, we live with these people. Like we're in the middle of these villages, and when you're in the regular army, it's easier to have this like us versus them mentality
Yeah.
because it is all bad guys. It is all, it's hard to decipher who's good and who's bad. The thing that's not told, and what I really liked, I listened to, I think his name's Pete Blaver, but he was, one of the OG guys from Orange who was in Afghanistan, and the way he described how they were use their target network and gave a little bit of kind of what things that we do, which I thought was really cool. Kind of give a civilian insight of how we gather an intelligence. How are we all putting this all together? And just what you said, you go to an objective, it's a dry hole, you're freezing your dick off, blah blah blah. The reality is, if you're just the team guy or you're just the gunner, the rifleman number two,
Yeah.
and you don't understand the big picture, you don't understand the intel that came off of that, and you just don't give a fuck, then you're never going to understand it. The reality is those missions that we go on, now we found out, what, that little fucking turf that we're texting, we know we got at him, we targeted. So it's like war when you look at it through like a movie, you got 2 hours to watch this action movie. If there's no action in it within the first, 10 minutes, you're like, oh, I'm not watching this
Yeah.
thing, right? Or they builds up to these battles. But war and the way we fight war unconventionally, we're playing chess. So we're moving things around the battlefield. We're really trying to layer things. And yes, just because we hit a dry hole doesn't mean it was a dry hole, meaning who we wanted to do wasn't there, but it doesn't mean we didn't gather intelligence. We didn't
Yeah.
force the enemy to displace and do something different they didn't want to do. And now that kind of connected us to our next move that we already have planned. So I think those things, that was really cool, that I thought that Pete Blaver described in the podcast about, what was going on when they first went into Afghanistan. He did a pretty good job of kind of showing civilians some of that on the battlefield.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's
And that's most of a deployment.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And it's like you brought up a great point. Like, just because there were no explosions and bad guys didn't get fucking canoed or shot in the face, like you're still pulling shit off the objective.
Yeah.
And fucking the warrant, the team sergeant, the captain, well, maybe not the captain. He'll stay up for a little bit. Everybody else goes back, and you start the F3 EAD cycle all over again. You start your fucking storyboards.
Yep.
Fucking start
Yeah.
working on the next fucking
Yeah.
con-ops, because you pull something else. You pull something else and it leads you down the next rabbit hole of
I wish they would
Palantir.
show. Oh, dude, I wish they would show, like, obviously some OPSEC, and they could, but I wish people could see like what an OPSEN looks like, with like every wall is just like shower curtains or just whiteboards, and it's just
Yeah.
not like, it looks like a scene out of like a, like they go into like a murderer's house and it's like just writing
The
everywhere.
conspiracy,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, there's like charts and maps just right, like there's not a space that can't be written on. You're like, what the fuck is, like, this is how we plan, bro? It's nuts. Which I think that those, you know, I want people to want to be gunfighters and be warriors and all that, but at the same time, like, your brain and what you bring to the table, and there's so many layers of being a good Green Beret. Again, not speaking for the other special operations guys, but for being a good Green Beret, you have to have layers and layers and layers
Yes.
of being a warrior. And when I say warrior, I mean not just the guy swinging the sword. I mean the guy who's gone past that and You're studying history, you're studying wars, you're studying some of these guys, and you understand strategy without getting too fucking. I've been watching this Netflix series about how they took over Constantinople. So I've
Yeah.
been on, dude. I love weird shit like that. So I didn't mean to throw in some big words there because I've been listening to historians talk.
Yeah, that's part of being a Green Beret, studying and always diving into history because it repeats itself. We're gonna always be at war, and dude, like we have rich history within our special forces legacy, and I'm always finding new guys that are Cold War era Green Berets that have written books and break down that fight was all
Hmm.
like, what it was like being one of the Berlin detachments. Like the shit's fascinating, dude. It's part of being a Green Beret. At some point you're going to be older and you're going to appreciate the history. And I know what you're thinking. If you're a younger Green Beret, you're saying, fuck that, I'm not that guy. I'm telling you, give it a few years, dude, it's going to be cool again.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's
No, for
dive into
sure.
what you're doing now, man, because I think
Yeah, heck
there's
yeah.
nothing more badass than going and continuing that spirit of fucking the oppressor liber, of being a force for good, man. Like you're doing something that connects all of us, like that ability to fight and champion for somebody else that may not be able to fight for themselves, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So basically, I did what a lot of guys do when I retired. I jumped on a contract. I thought I was gonna be, fucking spy or CIA or something. No, I knew that I wanted to do some kind of mission in life. I knew that it was up to me, without kids, family, I would have been in the army for 35 years, until they told me how to get out. I loved the army, but I knew that physical sacrifice that my family had gone through, especially my older kids, the average special operations guy is gone 280 days a month. I mean, a year. So, I mean, you're like, dude, you're never home. You know how it
Yeah.
is. It's so stressful. I was just like, man, 20 years. I gave the army 22 years, man, and that was enough. Like so. I retired, but I wanted to do something. I guess just kind of stay relevant, chase adventures, make a little bit of money. Kind of, how do I want to make money? I'm blessed. I have retirement and disability, so it wasn't like super urgent. But I was just filling some things out and got into anti-human trafficking. Was supposed to do a bunch of stuff in Africa, and COVID happened. So I retired January 2020, and then sitting around COVID, and I was like, man, those missions that were like the most rewarding thing I've done. I could see the effects from these people and these children. So I basically just saw on social media at the same time all these native families were like looking for all these missing women, and I was like, dang, what the heck's going on? And I was kind of disconnected from the native community for a while I was in the army. I grew up, powwow season, just heavily involved in the native community. Both of my parents, my mother was always advocating for native women and helping um, little girls and families out, and my both my parents. So I was like, well, I just want to help. This is a mission
Mhm.
my mother was about, my dad was on board with, and this was us. This is my people. So I just started helping families come to like investigations. I was like, if anything else, I'm good at walking around the woods looking for shit with a big backpack on. I'm like, or on my horse, like whatever. So that's how it started, and I just kind of needed a way to pay for it. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just start a t-shirt company and try to get like have like an action behind it. I saw a lot of veteran t-shirt company. I was like, yeah, but what are they doing? Like, what do you guys do?
Yep.
I started the t-shirt company and was just using the funds to help the community any way I could. The veteran community has been amazing as far as like volunteer support, whether it's from buying apparel, supporting us, to assisting on operations. And when I say operations, I mean, let's say, out where you live, I know there's a lady in need, she reaches out, or somebody says, hey, got a lady, she's in an abusive relationship, she's just trying to move out of there. It's like, okay, so let's say me and you will drive over to her house while her boyfriend's at work. We'll help her get moved out. If he shows up, what's he gonna do? We'll call the cops. We'll do the right thing, but just kind of help her, like give her that, like the muscle, if you will, and help her
Yeah.
get out of that situation. Get her U-Haul, whatever. So we're just using the money in all kinds of ways. and did that for about 2 years. And I was kind of spread so thin, really trying to figure out what direction I would go in. I wouldn't have a lot of money to help. It's like, 500 bucks goes a long ways though, in certain directions or for certain people in certain
Right.
situations. So we're just working. And then I just saw like, man, we need more. Like, how do we really break the cycle of abuse? A lot of these women that we were actually we thought we were rescuing, they just go right back into that same cycle, that same circumstance of,
Yeah, man.
you know, whether it was addiction, the same type of people, they go right back to what they know. How can we like hit a reset button or give them some skills or like confidence to build on themselves and kind of reinvent themselves, or give them the confidence to like be themselves again? Women who were, domestic violence or assaulted or something, like, how do I be my old self, this confident, bubbly person who wasn't scared of anything, and now I'm just a shell of myself. We're seeing a lot of those kind of things. So we started War Party Ranch, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and it's based in Western skills. And what we do is we basically just teach warrior skills to ladies in a clinic model. So we have self-defense, which includes firearms and unarmed self-defense, horsemanship and ranching, as well as hunting. So those are kind of in our mission statement, if you will, all the clinics that we teach are fall into that mission statement. So we do things like, 2-day pistol courses. We just did a branding clinic. We had a 2-day Colt starting and branding clinic up in Montana. What was really unique about that is we're able to bring these ladies in and basically kind of let them do jobs that they might have never got a chance to do on a ranch, or they just weren't handy enough and no one gave them the opportunity to. So we show them the right way and then just be patient and just let them get after it and let them make mistakes, and there's no pressure. Oftentimes it's really hard to teach some of these ranching skills because when you're learning, you're drinking from a fire hose
Yeah.
because you're doing it to get the job done. So, if we have 500 calves to brand in a day and there's only, 12 of us, like, we don't have time for me to be in there missing a bunch of roping shots and sucking. It's like, Jared, like, you're out, but next guy get in there and start snagging them. It's a really cool environment for that. So we do things like that, and we have this clinic model. We're really trying to impact all over the country. Our target demographic, yes, we want to influence the Native community as much as we can and help work with Native women, but we work with all women. When I started a War Party movement, the logo that's on there is actually the Alamo Scouts patch. And what I did is,
Oh,
and a lot of people
shit.
don't know, the Alamo Scouts, they were special reconnaissance in the South Pacific
Yep.
during World War II. And that unit was primarily comprised out of natives. What they did was they took a lot of Indians and they took a bunch of country boys. They were like, who knows how to live in the woods and survive. So they were like, let's make this unit, and that's who did that special reconnaissance. They never lost a man. They're the most elite, as far as numbers go and the missions they ran and what they did. SR unit that we've ever had. I believe it was Bill Clinton recognized them as part of Special Forces, officially, honored them as part of Special Forces. And when I was in third group, we basically our low when I was on 3311, the hallway, everybody in the hallway had to have skulls. So we took the Alamo Scouts logo, we just made it a skull. We added three stripes of war paint on it, and then we just added an extra feather to add to all four colors of Third Special Forces Group. It just so happens that those colors are also the colors of the medicine wheel, which they do represent a lot of things, but the most important thing my mother told me they represent is all the colors of the people of the world. That, in the prophecy of the seventh generation is that, we all come together, that there is no color, that we're all the same. So I use the Alamo Scouts logo as a way to pay tribute to my background of special forces, but also to honor just the warrior legacy of my people. Um, Native Americans serve at the highest rate of any other race in the United States. And a lot of people don't know that either, and
Yeah.
it's just this calling to be the protectors of Turtle Island. I do believe that you can love your country and hate your government. I think that a lot of retired special forces guys are the spitting image of just that, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Some of the best guys on social media about it. Because we've seen both sides of it, right? So, and then we added the stripes, just kind of signify, that you're getting ready for battle, that your heart is pure, your mind's pure, you're ready to go. And then those four colors representing the medicine wheel. So
Dude.
that's kind of where we get our logo from, and just kind of wanted to tie it all into, history and honoring my heritage, honoring, the warriors that came before me. And then, and all that, I keep running my mouth. All that being said, now what both of those entities are is War Party Ranch has an amazing ladies facilitating that board. They do a lot of sponsorships for rodeos and different events. We just sponsored a young lady. I believe she's 12. Her name's Rose. She's an amazing jiu-jitsu martial artist. So we sponsored her to, compete in jiu-jitsu. The hardest thing that we do with both within War Party is try to tell the story.
Yeah.
It's not our story to tell. I have to give like instances or kind of happenstances of some of the stories and people we work with. We've been very blessed. We've had ladies, want to tell their story and thank us and put that out there. But now we're growing into the point, which is really cool with these sponsorships where we get young ladies like Rose or like Haley Stokovich. She's a bronc rider. They get to be the face for so many ladies who don't have the courage yet to speak,
Hmm.
or maybe they haven't spoke up, or maybe they don't know they're in an abusive situation yet. They know something's wrong, or they just haven't, whatever it is, we're able to put these warrior faces and these ladies in front of people to show them that like anything's possible. Every lady on our board is just has this incredible story of her own. And to see them teach and facilitate these clinics for these ladies, it's so cool because a lot of these ladies have been through just as much or even more than the students they're teaching. And when they share a little bit of that, to see these ladies open up and be like, holy cow, you know, that happened to you, and now this is the human you are in front of me. And then kind of full circle going back to the cowboy thing and the veteran thing. A lot of Green Berets, I use a lot of guys to help teach, a lot of girl
Hell
dads,
yeah.
which is really cool. And the reason for that is because I want these ladies to know what right looks like. I didn't understand. It kind of took me a few times to realize that, like, working with these ladies and like helping facilitate some of these rescues, that I was like the first like male like role model, big brother figure, dad
Yeah.
figure that was like, you know, treated them right, like how they're supposed to, and it was they almost didn't know how to act or like what is that. So when we have clinics, we do have a healthy mix of some male instructors or male influence in there, and could be an example of like we had a bunch of GBs come out in Texas and all they did was cook. They just barbecued for all the ladies. And then when the ladies, one of the ladies was like, why do the guys get out of the way and like put their head down? Like ask Natasha, our president, who was one of
Hmm.
the instructors. And she was like, because they respect you. Like you're getting your food. They're going to make sure everybody eats and you get seconds and they're serving you and doing their thing. And when you guys are done, like, this is what they do. This is why they came here.
Hmm.
And it was like, what do you mean? Like couldn't understand like this, 6'4", like jack tatted dude, like taking his hat off, stepping back and being like, oh, go ahead, man. Like, would you like more? Whatever. They're just like
Yeah.
kind of blown away by it. And then what was cool is, then the ladies would go off and eat dinner and then the boys would like go just bang steel for like an
Yeah.
hour, nonstop or whatever. But it was it was so cool for them to interact and see that. And then for guys like us to get that, for me, it's a bigger reward for the student, or excuse me, the instructors than it is the students. Some of my buddies that have came and taught these ladies, I think they walk away with the bigger sense of that. De oppressor libere, like I'm actually
Yes.
working with somebody who matters, who wants to learn to defend themselves or really wants to learn how to like rope and ride this well, and they're like passionate about it, and it's also changing their life, because I think that trauma is trauma, and we have so much of this really heavy kind of guilt-laced weird trauma that, like, yes, when you write it on a paper, like there's nothing I should feel guilty about. I wasn't responsible for those things, but it doesn't mean that's not how you feel. And
Yeah.
then in the same time, for them, they have that right. So it's easy for us to what if and look back and be like, was I a fucking good guy?
Yeah.
Especially you look at the government, so you're like, oh
Yeah.
god.
Yeah. We were definitely not the rebels. We were the Empire. Fuck. We were stormtroopers, but we were at least elite stormtroopers.
So so I think that kind of inner battle is cool to see that the guys get that reward as well. So my intent to this, when I started everything and I realized like what I could make War Party, movement, and what War Party Ranch is becoming as well, it's kind of this double-edged sword of we're helping people on one side, that really need this help, that really need a hand up, not a handout. They really want to improve themselves. And then we have the other side of that blade is these like very masculine, manly warriors that have a skill set that also are kind of like, man, I don't know if like, can I still use it? Am I still influential? What can I do? And then they get to see that this skill set that they've honed over years of their lives is actually very practical and brings a lot to the table and healing these ladies and just making them more confident of who they are.
Yeah, dude. It is such a noble and amazing mission to see you on, and who better to do it, man? It's so freaking awesome to see this. I want more guys to get involved and help out. If you pause right now, go to the episode description. There's links there. Please donate, hit up Jeremiah, figure out how you can help and get involved with this, because it's not only helping other people, but I think it'll help you if you're struggling to help and give back to somebody, and who better to help. There's something to be said about when you're at your worst, when you're down and out, lean into the skill sets that you spent an entire career developing and put them towards something good. Be of use for somebody else. And you'll see that, holy shit, like being of service to others helps you. It might help you get to the point where you're like, all right, maybe I can go get help now. Oftentimes, we are the worst individuals to accept help. But when we're able to at least get back into a place where we're helping other people, it helps us realize how much more we need to pour into ourselves. Jeremiah, I can't thank you enough for being here, brother, and for what you're doing. If people want to reach out with you and connect, where can they go?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you too, man. So on social media, check out War Party Movement and War Party Ranch on Instagram. And then my Instagram is Jeremiah_Blackbeard. Yeah, man, no, I appreciate you, man. It's super cool to catch up, and I'm definitely proud of you, man. And it's always
Thank you,
really
brother.
cool to see guys that you knew, you've known for, I don't know, 15 years
Yeah,
or
dude.
plus, seeing guys just crushing life and getting after it. And this podcast is really cool, man. I love, one, your memes are you've always been the meme king, bro. I don't know how much people know about your meme history, but you've been crushing for a long time, man. But also just, the guests you bring on and things you talk about, I think it's so cool, man. Keep crushing it, dude. Yeah, it's
Always,
awesome.
brother.
Good to see
Always.
what you're doing in the community.
Thank you so much, man. I
Yeah,
say that it's the easiest and greatest thing we can do is find a way that you can align your passion and your purpose into something that you really enjoy, man. So that's 100% why I do this. So it'll continue.
I oh
Dude,
my gosh, I don't even
it's been
know.
a
I'm like,
fucking blast, man. I am so glad
yeah,
to see where you're at. And
yeah,
to
dude.
everybody tuning in, thank you so much. We'll see you all next time. Till then, take care. Security Halt Podcast is proudly sponsored by Titan SARMS. Head to the episode description and check out Titan SARMS today.